Big question then. So what deserves our analysis? So what deserves reflection about should we move it or not? What is the experiment we should do? What should we redesign? Not all curriculum is equal. Not all curriculum matters. We all teach stuff that nobody's gonna use ever again. Now, I find that rarer in kindergarten than in trigonometry, because most people do use all their letters. Nope, I only use 20. I'm differentiated. So we got to look at curriculum. And every time we look at curriculum or we look at our past practice, I always think of hoarders. I don't know if you've seen the TV show Hoarders. My wife's mother, my mother-in-law, has a little bit of a hoarding problem. We continue to say we're going to clean her house, but she keeps living in it. And we can't find her sometimes. But the reality is she's afraid she might need it someday. She is paralyzed because she might need that thing and won't throw it out. It's time to let some stuff go. The rhombus, not that important. Fractional understanding, more important. So I might want to power up fractional understanding, but comparing a square to a rhombus to a trapezoid, maybe not so much. Both could be made more engaging, I'm sure, but what's worth it? So instead of being curricular hoarders, I want us to recognize this first. Curriculum wins. Curriculum is more important than teaching and learning. This is hard to say, because I could teach with greater efficacy and my kids could learn more, but if it's not the right stuff, to what end? And I've seen schools, we want to make this more engaging. Yeah, they don't need it. So they will have more fun learning something that is not application. What we teach matters more than how we teach it. Why we're teaching matters more than what we're teaching. Are we building thinkers? Are we building citizens? Do we want kids who are mentally and physically well? So we're in the right work, but we have jumped ahead a little bit to talk about instructional practice. And so I want to just slow you down for just a minute. If you haven't done this work yet, it's the work you need to do. I'm going to say this even as we're asking you to write a school improvement plan, knowing that some of the work hasn't been done yet by the division. And that is deciding what matters most. A lot of people ask this in the exit interviews, so I'm going to say this. We have been building curriculum this way since 1998. You heard it from the panel. It's on the test. Let's teach that in school and maybe hope it's relevant to life. That has been our focus. And it's not just Virginia, it's across the country. And in an effort to leave no child left behind, we left a lot of thinking behind. A lot of thinking. So we guaranteed content for kids. We did not guarantee viable thinking in that content for kids. And I know some of fourth grade social studies in Virginia and the SOLs. I remember the first time I did a lesson in fourth grade in this state, and I had 3 tribes, 3 languages, 3 geographic regions, right? Why? Why? Because what I want you to know is this. People live here and people live there. And when you live here, near the stream, you probably fish. When you live over here in the mountains, you probably hunt. If you live over here, you need words that describe the water and how to fish and the name of the fish. If you live over here, you need words for arrow and bow and bear. And because you live in different places, you have different languages. Because you live in different places, you also have different cultures. You don't have the seasonal things that they have on top of this mountain. That's why we were teaching the native tribes of Virginia. Or were we doing it because some politicians said they need to know these tribes and these tribes and these tribes? I don't know from whence it came. I have to figure out why I'm teaching it. My grandmother's culture is different from my other grandmother's culture. We behave differently. It didn't take me long as a child to figure that out. When we were at Grandma Eulin's house, you said, "Can I help you make breakfast, Grandma?" And that was the interaction we had. In Grandma Antonetti's kitchen, you didn't go to the kitchen. You just said, "Could I have a..." "Well, I'll make it for you, baby." And we learned that she was big grandma for a reason. Because you showed love through food. But over here you showed love through working together. I'm so glad I had both of those cultures. So if we flip this, I'm going to ask you this. What does a 24-year-old need to know that you teach? Because if a 24-year-old who is not in school, I don't even care what the career is, who is not in school, will use something this month that you've taught, that's what we rigor up. If you have, how many of you did a system of equations problem in your life the last couple of months? Or found the interior angles of a polygon? Anybody? Then that is not longevity to be rigored up. Unless I have extra time. But I only have 178 days of teaching, and I'm going to take out 8 of those because the 8 days I'm going to come to school barely there. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to be almost dead sick, or mentally just in a bad place, but I'm going to come because it's easier than writing subplans. Okay. Stay on level 1, 2 on those days, or give them a level 3 where it doesn't matter what the answer is. Okay, so we're going to flip it. We're going to start with what do people need? What do we know as professionals? What's on the test? So it's going to look like this. We're going to go through our curriculum. And again, this is a tedious process, but it's really important and it informs the other work we're doing. I'm going to look through my SOLs. And working silently with my table mates around me from my grade level, we're going to go through every content objective standard and put a C next to it if 24-year-olds have to know it to be successful in the world. Do 24-year-olds have to add fractions with unlike denominators? I'm going to say yes. Somebody on my team, I hope, says no, so that I hope we have to argue. Really? They don't? Don't they? Really? I want to have that moment. And the problem is I might even want to volunteer a spouse or somebody who's not in school to say, no, you're still thinking like teachers. I don't. Or I do. So we put a C next to it. We run all the way through the curriculum and decide what are the C's. Then we stop. We get up. We have a break. We go back through the curriculum guide, through the SOLs one more time. We say, this time, working by ourselves, put a T next to everything you think. They don't need it the way the standard asks it, but the thinking in that standard is lifelong. I'll give you a perfect example. The learner will be able to identify patterns of ionization in the periodic trend, extrapolate a principle, and generate a possibility for the unknown first ionization energy of a lanthanide series element. Is that a C? You guys done that in the last couple of years? It is not a C. Listen to what I said again. Read the periodic table, figure out what's going on, decide a pattern, repeat it. Do you do that? I think we do that on a daily basis. We make predictions about what we're going to wear today, what we're going to do today, based upon, I found a trend, I found a pattern. So I don't think it has a C, but I think reading the periodic table and predicting trends gets a T. And honestly, I want my PLC to have an English teacher in my science PLC to say, John, I would agree with that. I don't know much about the periodic table, but I know that anytime you see a graphic, you have to figure out what it's saying to you. So yeah, I'm going to go with that, John. That just sounds like a good reading, longevity of thinking standard. So I put a T next to that one. We go all the way through. We stop, we take a break, we walk outside. We come back again and we do this. I need 5th grade to come to 4th grade now. So 5th grade, I want you to work on this before you come to me. 5th grade, you get to tell me, I'm going to skip a couple slides. You get to tell me the 5 things you will guarantee in 5th grade science if I guarantee these 3 coming out of 4th grade. I want you to look at that ratio. I want the grade level above me not to tell me the 19 things I need to send them so that they can be successful. Tell me the 5 things you value most in your 5th grade curriculum and the 3 predicators coming out of 4th. In other words, you're promising to do more than you're asking me to prepare. And what I know is, I've done this K-12 many years. Typically what happens is when 5th grade says, in math, we can guarantee this if they knew this and this if they knew that, and we could really do these 2 if they knew that. Interestingly enough, when 4th grade was working, these were 3 of the things they said they thought were the most important too. And then third grade has these, it just builds. It's almost like systemically we already know what we haven't articulated. So we go back then, and in this list, I've got C's on my document, I've got T's on my document, and I have 3 N's. We read it one more time, and this is hard to say. We read it one more time and put an A next to everything that is tested. And in Virginia, that's a lot of A's. You got some big OA going on. If we do content thinking, and then you got a big, never mind. Make up your own joke. So why did we do this? For this reason. We are now going to decide relevance. Still can't give kids relevance, but I've got to decide what should be relevant to children, what needs to be relevant. We just said those things that have a C and a T and an N and an A must be made relevant. We have to engage kids in those because they need that content. They need to think that way. Next year's depending upon it, and it's on the test. And then anything that got 3 letters, A, N, C, T, whatever combination of 3 letters, that's the second tier. Assessed but doesn't have another letter, or it's 2 letters and one of them is assessment, I want to still look at those because I've learned, especially in elementary, sometimes the assessment is so focused on the minuscule and the trivial and the pedantic that I have to look at this. I'll give you an example. In the state of Indianapolis, 3rd grade, students will be able to recognize the schwa vowel sound. Have you had to recognize the schwa in the last couple of years? When you were at that party, did somebody say, pass me the schwa? Okay, it is not longevity of content. It is not longevity of thinking. I don't know what it is, but in Indianapolis, or in Indiana, there are 5 questions on the schwa. Schwa has more single questions than almost anything else in their 3rd grade content. Guess what? I'm going to teach me some schwa. And you know when I'm going to do it? I'm going to do one day in September. I'm going to do one day on the schwa in November. I'm going to do a little bit of schwa in February. Right before the test, we're going to do, remember that schwa? Do some. And I'm not going to make it engaging, and I'm not going to make it rigorous. But bigger than the schwa and the process that we want to do is now say, okay, if we know that this is priority order, how do we then turn it into rigor? So we drop the rigor divide and say this. The things that we should be working on collaboratively to make rigor had all 4 of the letters. And the things that had 3 or a combination of priority indicators or relevance indicators need to be taught on the other side if I have time as well. The others, don't kill yourself. Enjoy your family more. Be happy. Leave it over there, you're done. Let it go. Mention it, move on. Don't make it better. Now, those things with the 4 letters, that's when we need to be like AA. That's when we need to come together as a 4th grade team or a 3rd grade team and say, how can we do it? Making sure, this is really important, making sure that as kids are thinking in that content piece, they're thinking in the content, not just accepting it. They're making meaning of the C. And because it has the next letter T, that they know that it's about the thinking. And I'm going to post my objective differently. I'm not going to say you're learning to blah, 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 blah. You're using blank in order to learn how to think this way. So that my content leads to the thinking. And if kids said, when will we ever use this? I might default and say, next year when you have Mrs. Jones, I promise you, she is a stickler on this. I'm not going to say that because that put Mrs. Jones in a bad spot. Boys and girls, if we're doing this right, you can see the relevance. You know your mom and dad have done this. You see us struggle with this. Even as I'm walking down the hall, you know that I think this way. That's where we have to be collaborative. And then the magic of this, and I'm always amazed at how it happens. Fenwick English said this in the 70s, but I didn't know if I could trust him. He said that when you look at those things and you start with this, I will bet you that 5 to 8 things have all 4 letters. 5 to 8 in a content area will have those letters. Great. That's 1 per month. That is almost a PLC cycle. How are we going to plan that thing for a CNTA? And then if it's just 5, I'm going to ask you dig a little into the next group too. Because one of our school improvement plans should be to decide in the content curriculum what is worth rigoring up, what is worth moving over. And the answer is 8 to 10 things when we are really comfortable with this. And then should we move over here? No. Trust the process. You already said that these things on this side can just stay over there on the 1-2 side. So we're not going to come together to plan how to have kids practice something that we could all already just do. That's a waste of professional energy. I want to put it over here in 8 to 10 things. And I have seen some content curricula where, guess what? Only one thing had all 4. Yay. That could be a focus of our school improvement work this year.